Bryan was the most over, which means popular, cheered, supported. He was the most over babyface, which is the term for good guy, in the entire WWE, even more so than John Cena. Even though John Cena is the face of the company and the biggest, most well-known good guy in the company, Daniel Bryan had been gone for a year with injury and is still currently the most over good guy that the WWE had, without wrestling. He's that beloved in his rise to superstardom that he was just now starting to enter the prime of, to see that be the time when it ends and is, when he loses it as a part of his life. I think that was the really hard part for all of us as WWE fans. And I also think that's got to be the hardest part for him. I know that there's, and I understand this part of, that it's his dream and it's what he loves to do, and having to say goodbye to that. But as a realistic, intelligent human being, you know that that's an inevitable that you can kind of prepare yourself and brace for in a way. But to finally reach the mountaintop in your life aspirations from a career and professional standpoint, and then to almost immediately have it ended on you, it's just, it's difficult to go through if you're the one in it, obviously, and it's difficult to watch even if you're on the outside. So, that's my main take from Daniel Bryan's retirement. He retired due to health concerns. He cited in his retirement speech how 5 months into his wrestling career, when he started many, many years ago, he had already suffered multiple concussions. And how that played a factor into it, his neck injury and surgery that he had recently here, that being no joke, having a wife, wanting to raise a family, knowing that one move that, you don't execute perfectly, you land wrong, the other person doesn't do their job quite right, any of these variables that happen all the time to pro wrestlers. One mistake, one bad moment, and you might be paralyzed for the rest of your life instantly, or die, a worst case scenario. Those are pretty huge, risk rewards to be dealing with, especially when you have accomplished, all that you can set out to accomplish, really, even though there were chapters left unwritten, but everything's checked off of the to-do list. You main evented WrestleMania, you were the world champ, you are one of a handful of men in the history of the business to hold every single title, US, IC, World Heavyweight, WWE, the WWE World Heavyweight when it was unified, the Tag Team Championships. He literally won every championship other than the Divas Championship, which he's not eligible for. And only a handful of guys have ever done that. That's a very rare, very, very rare feat in the WWE. You don't feel too bad for the guy, but you feel bad for the guy. My favorite part of his retirement speech, there were two parts. A funny part that I know Vince hated. He made some comment about, starting a family with Brie, and then he did some kind of joke, like a "that's what she said" joke after he said it, like he realized, and the crowd just erupted and started, they did the holy S chant, followed by "that's what she said, that's what she said, breaking PG a little bit, but it was all in decent fun, and I think over most kids' heads, who, if it's inappropriate for a kid, it was almost certainly over their head, so nothing I would be concerned about, but I'm sure Vince didn't like it. And that's one of my theories why Vince was so grumpy. He did something that we're going to talk about here in just a minute before we're done. But my final thoughts on Daniel Bryan was, other than that joke, well, even more so than the joke and the chant, my favorite part of his retirement speech was because he got to do it in his hometown of Seattle, Washington, where he's from, the Washington state. And so that was special for him and everybody. And that's the arena that the Occupy Raw and the big movement that got him, the rewrite from the Royal Rumble debacle and all those things that fixed WrestleMania 31. Or was it WrestleMania 30? Well, that would have probably been, that would have been WrestleMania 30. Excuse me, all the things that fixed WrestleMania 30, happened at that arena with that crowd and Daniel Bryan. So it was cool to have all those reuniting factors and those personal factors involved. And he thanked the crowd in the WWE Universe for giving him the moment that he had that year in that arena where his dad was sitting in the crowd, and he pointed to the place that his dad was sitting at watching it, and a part of it, and just how awesome that, the big takeover moment, whatever it was, and everything. And then he commented on how that was the last time his father got to see him wrestle, and just how special that moment was and still is, to him because of that, and it wasn't, not because my dad was there, not because my dad was here and it was here, when I won some big thing or whatever, but because of, the support and energy and all that good stuff, that the crowd provided, to Daniel and his father in that moment. That's what made it special, and if you read Twitter or Facebook or anything like that, it was hilarious right before the speech, during the speech, and after the speech. It was just, social media was littered with wrestling fans, grown adult male wrestling fans who were, openly, non-provokingly, proudly in a way, subtly proudly, expressing how they had been crying at points during the Daniel Bryan speech, which, I found humorous, not like funny as in you laugh at it, but just like, humorous that all these grown men are going out of their way to let people know they're crying about this, even though they're trying to play it off, that it's no big deal or that they weren't, in a joking fashion. They just, I found entertainment in that, but ultimately bad for the WWE company. I mean, now more than ever, like, announcing his return and getting him in Mania would have been huge. Doing quite the opposite with just a roster littered with injured superstars, especially big name ones, going into the biggest event of the year. It just, it's a big blow for the WWE as a company, whether they would like to admit it or not. They are not in the state, they're not where they'd like to be right now, and they're not really set up to move forward where they want to go, in my opinion, either at the current moment. But we wish Daniel, and his wife Brie Bella nothing but the best, and hopefully he's able to, find something to do now that he's going to no longer be a wrestler, at least no longer a WWE wrestler, that he can be happy with. Some rumor on whether or not he will sign with a different wrestling promotion, because several doctors cleared him to wrestle multiple times, but the WWE doctor wouldn't. So it is possible that he could try to find new employment in Lucha Underground, I suggest, which is on Season 2, Episode 3. Just aired this week. Episode 4 of Season 2 will be next week. Tune in. El Rey Network, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Every Wednesday night. Don't miss it. It's the best wrestling on TV ever. But so it'll be interesting to see if Daniel, in fact, does try to wrestle somewhere else, maybe New Japan Pro Wrestling or Ring of Honor, TNA even, God forbid. Lucha Underground, like I said, I think would be the best by far for his situation if he were to try it, but I don't want him to. The risk is knowing what his risk is. It's so, and knowing his style and his personality, like, he's not going to change the way he wrestles. So I just, I don't want to see anything super bad happen to him. So rather he just stay out. But best wishes to him. Also, best wishes to Bret Hart, who just underwent surgery for his recently announced prostate cancer, as reported on last week's show. Sounds like the surgery did go well, and he is recovering, as averages can be expected. we'll continue to monitor that. Like I said, best wishes to the Hitman. He's in our thoughts as well. And final wrestling tidbit for this week, and then we'll close the show. Titus O'Neil got himself into some trouble in the Daniel Bryan retirement speech, because when Daniel Bryan's retirement speech got done, the whole entire locker room came out onto the stage, including the Authority, Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, Triple H. Like, everybody who was there had to come out and, pay respect and applaud and all that good stuff. And while that was happening or ending, in celebratory fashion, Titus O'Neil was, playfully interacting with Vince McMahon, trying to dance or hug or, whatever, things of that nature. And Vince McMahon responded by suspending Titus O'Neil for touching him for 90 days. Now, there was an immediate uproar, and it was revisited a day or two later, and the suspension was reduced to 60 days. 2 full months, 60 days. Titus O'Neil is still being suspended for touching Vince McMahon. They are claiming that, it has nothing to do. There's a lot of people crying race. They're claiming it has nothing to do with any of that stuff, that it was, simply unprofessional behavior and, a violation of company policy, whatever, in regards to such, and you're out 60 days. So that takes him out of WrestleMania if he were to have any involvement as some kind of jobber at that show, and that is by far the biggest paycheck of the year that any wrestler can get. It's ridiculous, because if John Cena would have watch the video, just YouTube it or Google search it, whatever, if you're interested. Titus O'Neil, Vince McMahon. If you can find it, I had a hard time finding it because WWE did a good job of pulling the video in all the places it could for, trademark infringement or whatever, because they don't want you to actually see what happened and form your own, educated, intelligent opinion. But if you saw it, or if you can get footage of it, you can't possibly think that if John Cena were to have done the exact same thing, or, someone similar, someone in the really long-term good graces, of them, Big Show even, maybe, like, Taker wouldn't be in that position to begin with, but, whoever you want to think of, I like to think of John Cena as the example here. Had they done the exact same thing Titus said, they would have had no repercussions whatsoever. It would have just been, whatever, But like I said, I think Vince was extra grumpy because of both the retirement and then the, PG break in the innuendo chant. But then, so Titus was wrong place, wrong time, but still it's a huge overreaction, poor decision, mistake. Just another ugly blemish that's unnecessary and the WWE did not need at all at this time. Things are tough enough for him right now the way it is. So, but regardless, Titus is suspended for 60 days. All right, so that finishes our pro wrestling talk, finishes all of our topics here for this week's show, our 52nd show, the final of one full year of weekly Balls Deep Sports Talk. Again, thank you for being a part of it, whether it be just this week for the first time or, this being your 52nd time or anywhere in between. Can't thank you enough. And that means that next week will basically be episode 1 of season 2, our second year of Balls Deep Sports Talk. I'm sure we'll have plenty of good stuff to discuss then, as we do each and every week here on the Spreaker app, SoundCloud, and YouTube, and hopefully in the very near future, the once again home and origin station of our show, WNLMradio.com. Again, like and friend me on Facebook, Scotty-Ball. Follow me on Twitter at BDST Show. And for the love of Pete Bursich, I can't express to you enough how much it would mean to me, how grateful I would be if you would go to VikingsDigitalDiaries.com and check out my weekly interview with former Vikings players. This week's was wide receiver Matthew Hatchett, and it was a fantastically fun interview. I'm sure you will enjoy it. Please go check it out. Again, that's at VikingsDigitalDiaries.com. And while you're at it, like and friend them on Facebook, by searching Viking